Welcome back to part 2, guys. So I've been doing a little bit of shopping, gathering together all the bits I think I might need for this generator install thing. So I'll talk through all the bits one at a time. As the title suggests, trying really hard to keep this under £500, and I think I'm definitely on the right side of it. Anyway, so to start with, so I've got two types of cable here. I've got a 7-core and a 3-core. So this is SY type cable. It's my understanding is it's control cable that they use in industry for various things. It's got a galvanized steel weave on the outside. The reason I'm using this is some of the cable is going to run along the chassis of the van, along with the wiring loom to get to the front where the control panel is going to be, and where the outlet's going to be from the generator inside the van. It will make sense when I do it and I show you, but I've used this. I didn't want to use full-on armoured cable. It seemed like overkill, and it's hard to bend around some of the little... Basically, I want this cable to follow the wiring loom on the van, on the chassis, and it seemed overkill to use fully armoured, and this is pretty hardcore. I know it's technically not the right cable for what I'm using it for, but it's the best solution I could come up with. I got 6 meters of each, which is more than I need, and it was £1 a meter from my local electrical supplier. So that's the cable I'm going to use. So in the interest of keeping the cost down as much as possible, I thought about covering the sides of the Jenny with aluminium plate or stainless steel plate, or anyway, what I've come up with, this rubber mat. I got a load of this rubber mat off Fleabay or Amazon somewhere. There's bloody meters of the bloody stuff. It's like a fabric woven, really thick rubbery mat. I think just for now, until this, I've sort of proved that this concept is going to work, I'm going to wrap the external framework of the generator in this rubber matting, just to keep the worst of the weather off. As I may have already explained, it can't for cooling reasons, it can't be completely encased in a box. So I think this might be the solution. It might not be, but I'm going to suck it and see, because this was cheap as beans. So yeah, that's what I've come up with for now for protecting the generator when it's on the chassis. So I've got this generic type fuel tank that comes with this little fuel spigot. Got to make a hole in the tank for the outlet, so put the outlet wherever I want it to be. It's 5 litres, I think this is. This is going to go in, I'll show you when I install it. This is going in one of those little side lockers by the rear door of the van. Obviously, depending on your application, you'll have to come up with a solution for the type of fuel tank you want to use. But like 20 quid on eBay, it's perfect because it's like side mounted, which is exactly what I want. So yeah, fuel tank. I've got a selection of switches. So I've got get these to focus. So I've got an engine momentary push switch, a start switch. I've got a funky lighty uppy engine on and off switch, and I've got this. It will become clear what this is for in a second. So let me go to the next bit. So I've got this switch as well, and I'll show you what this is going to be used for, because I've already got it wired up, just the thing it's going to control. Anyway, cryptic talking, let me show you the generator and I'll explain what this switch is going to do. I think I might have previously mentioned this in my in my first video, but one of the problems, or one of the features with these cheap Chinese generators is manual choke lever. So I've had to come up with a solution. Obviously I don't want to be climbing underneath the van and putting the choke on every time I want to start it, so I've come up with a solution for that, which is cheap, and hopefully it's going to be effective. Right, so this rocker switchy thing, here's one I prepared earlier. Look, so what the hell's going on here, I hear you say. So I've bought for my choke control a linear focus, a linear actuator. Massively overkill for the amount of power required. This has got a 2-inch throw on it. Yeah, massively. I mean, this would literally lift your blooming car up. But it was cheap as beans. It was £15 from China on eBay, delivered, including the carriage, £15. I mean, how in God's name do they make that and deliver it to the other side of the world for £15? It's supposed to be waterproof, but I have my doubts, so I'm going to have to protect it from the weather as well as I can. But so let me just explain what I've got going on here. So I'll get a batteria and I will So the reason I went for this type of actuator is it's got a what's the word, it's got like a limit switch in it. So when you basically, I've got my, try and explain this to you, I've got my positive and negative go into the center 2 of this switch, and then if you look at the way it's wired, this side goes to the, how to put it, this side goes to the God, I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, am I? Do I need to start this take again? So this one, I've got positive and negative to the center 2. This one and this one go to this one and this one, so go to the power feed to the generator, and this one go to the same 2 wires. So what's happening is, let's connect this battery up. This switch is basically just reversing the polarity, and then when it gets to its extremity, it stops. So that way I can control the choke electronically. Obviously I've got to make some bracketry and stuff, and I haven't got that figured out yet, but that was my cheap solution. You know, the switch and the actuator were less than 20 quid. I'm probably going to I haven't quite decided. I think I'm just going to 3D print a little panel for these to sit in. That's probably the easiest way. I've got a nice sheet of brushed stainless. There's a guy down the road with a water jet could probably cut me out a nice neat little bracket, or I might make some out of aluminium. I think I'll 3D print some, just for fun possibly, and cheapness and ease of, yeah. So I'll have a bracket for all these switches to sit in. I've got a funky place to put them actually, which I think you'll, assuming I've got enough room, I think you'll quite like it. What else have I got? I've got a load of these noggins. What would you call them? Noggins. So where the cabling goes up in through the chassis, make a nice watertight, neat way so it can pass in and out through the chassis. And also I think that cable I showed you is going to be hardwired into that sort of control box on the generator where all the wiring is, so I'll probably use these to pass the cable out to keep it watertight. And then I've got a load of these cables, these sockets, but I'll explain. You might not need as many as I've got, but for my application I need a load of these. I think that just about covers it. I've got some little plastic jobbies to attach the cable to the chassis on the van, although I think I may just be cable tying the cable to the original wiring loom on the van, which runs along the chassis or along with the brake lines or something. And then I've got these screws for steel, so if I need to attach these to the chassis of the van, I haven't got to drill a pilot hole, they'll work quite well. Anyway, so first thing I'm going to do is I'll probably go and have a dick around with my 3D printer and start the little panel printing for my switches, and then I'm just going to come and strip that generator, take off everything I don't need, start chopping the frame around and just seeing how I'm going to mount it to the chassis, and figure out whether my idea of putting the rubber mat around it, I'll probably rivet the rubber mat to the frame. Maybe I won't, maybe I'll just cable tie it. I'm probably making it overcomplicated. Anyway, strip the Jenny and print out a little panel for the switches.